Hey Internet, Eric here. Tonight we got Is It Worth the Hate? If you're new to my channel, welcome. Is It Worth the Hate is where I take a movie, or if you've seen my last Is It Worth the Hate, a Netflix special that I've never seen or I haven't seen in probably 15 to 20 years, and I don't remember anything about it. I rewatch the film or I watch it for the first time and tell you in my own way, in my own opinion, is it worth the hate that it gets? Be it, critics hate it, fans hate it, critics and fans hate it, what have you. Now, back in March, this is May as I'm uploading. Back in March, I said I was going to try to review as many of the Leprechaun films that I could in that month, because the previous year, in March, I reviewed the first film in my You Hate It, I Don't series. I have a playlist for all the Leprechaun films. If you want to know what I thought of those, feel free to go check them out. So I made it through part one, which you obviously should know if I like it or not, if it's in You Hate It, I Don't. I made it through part 2 and 3, and then I stopped. I needed a break from the Leprechaun. So, last night, for the first time in probably 15, 20 years, since I first bought it on VHS, I watched or rewatched Leprechaun 4 in space. Now, even fans of the Leprechaun series fucking hate this film. They shit on it every chance they get. I believe it has, 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't give a shit about Rotten Tomatoes. Never have, never will. But that's basically the only background I know of concerning the hate for Leprechaun 4. Now, I've already welcomed you to my channel if you are new. I discuss plot spoilers, plot points, this and that, because that's just how I talk about films. And I believe this came out in either, I can't read, 95, 96. It doesn't say. The year will be in the video description. Now, this film, we're in space. Everybody makes a joke that eventually every horror icon goes to space. Leprechaun did it. Pinhead did it. Jason did it. We're in space with Leprechaun this time. Now, this takes the Leprechaun films in a whole new direction. And I'm okay with that, plot-wise, because I think my very first You Hate It, I Don't video was for Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday, which took the Friday the 13th films in a whole new fucking direction. And I enjoyed that because the series was getting stale. And sometimes that works. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 is another perfect example, which I really enjoyed. The going from horror to horror comedy. Okay, the plot of Leprechaun 4 in space. Warwick Davis is back, and he has taken a princess hostage, an alien princess. Everybody's, it's in space. Has taken an alien princess hostage, and he wants to marry her so he can become king. And she doesn't want to marry him, but then she realizes she'll get all of his riches as well. So there's this team of Marines led to, I believe, rescue her. I think that's why they're fucking there. And it's got hot Debbie Dunning from Home Improvement and a bunch of calendars from the 90s. Miguel Nunez Jr. from Friday the 13th Part 5 fame and Return of the Living Dead, and he's in a bunch of black comedies like Joanna Man, stuff like that. They're the only recognizable people in this film other than Warwick Davis returning as Leprechaun. The Marines show up, they rescue the princess in this shootout with the Leprechaun. The Leprechaun is killed, but eventually makes his way back onto the ship. I'll get to it. To look for his future bride. And the whole time the Marines are obviously trying to kill the Leprechaun. And there's a side story where the Marines' boss is a weird, I'm assuming German, because of the fake accent, scientist who's part robot, is trying to find a way to recreate DNA from the princess, who can regenerate herself so he is no longer robotic. He can be human again, and all hell breaks loose with that while they're fighting the Leprechaun. Yeah. Okay. Now I will get to my decision after I discuss the good and the bad. Alright, first off, Warwick Davis is once again back as a Leprechaun, and I fucking love him here. He is taking a shitty script. It's a Leprechaun in space now. Now, like I said, they're taking the plot in a different direction. But he's taking what... And this was directed by Brian Trenchard Smith. I think he directed Leprechaun 3 as well. Now, Warwick Davis is given what he's given, and he runs with it, and once again, he makes it fun. I love... Every time he's on screen, he's chewing up the scenery. He's funny as hell. Like he's stalking one of the Marines, and he's talking about work safety, safety in the workplace. And he's on the television set, and he's got a hard hat on. He's cutting off his fingers and saying, "Be careful of sharp instruments" and stuff like that. He's hammy as hell. When he finally meets up with the princess again, and they know they have to marry each other, his banter with her, Rebekah Carlton, the actress, she sucks. But when she's with Warwick, their chemistry is great. I love how they talk down to each other. He calls her like an ungrateful bitch, and she says, "What did you say?" And he says, "I have an itch," or something like that. They talk about how it's going to be a pity to kill each other after the wedding. They together are a lot of fun. Let's see here. Now the characters, other than Warwick Davis, aren't very memorable, other than a couple, and I'll tell you who. Because we have the head Marine, the sergeant, who is got like half of his skull missing, and it's got like a metal plate right here, trying to make him look like a badass. But the acting here is just so over the top. I think he's trying to be like Arlie Ermey from Full Metal Jacket, and he just comes off real bad. Everyone else, other than Miguel A. Nunez Jr., who I'll get to, is just, basically fodder for the Leprechaun to kill. No one cares about them. The Marines, at least. The saving grace in the Marines is Miguel A. Nunez Jr., because every time this fucker is on screen, I'm laughing. He made me laugh out loud twice when I saw this film. So he's gold. I love him here. I mentioned the German doctor. He's got an assistant, a creepy, perverted assistant. I like the assistant. The assistant is really funny. The assistant is funny with the way he talks to the Marines. Like, he doesn't give a shit. He doesn't work for the Marines. He works for Dr. Mittenhand. So he's not afraid to talk back to the metal-headed drill sergeant. And the way him and Dr. Mittenhand talk to each other and play off of each other is great. It's funny. It's entertaining. Even though by themselves, they suck. I can't stand Dr. Mittenhand when he's not talking to his assistant. He's annoying. His accent is too hammy for me. Yeah, it's just... he's hard to look at. The actor is a really ugly dude. Now, the Marines also have with them a female doctor who works for Mittenhand. And she's there just to be eye candy, and she's very pretty. Her name isn't even in the fucking credits. She's very pretty blonde. Now she's just there for eye candy because A, she's got the tightest red fucking pants in the world, and the camera focuses on her ass a lot. And eventually, when she's running from Dr. Mittenhand, which I'll get to in a second, even her pants get ripped off, and for the last 10 minutes of the movie, she's running around in her underwear. which is fine. You need that eye candy for a film like this. And speaking of eye candy, we also have, like I said, Debbie Dunning from Home Improvement. She plays the whore. Doesn't get naked, but she's very sexy. You know, you see her in her bra, and she's very good at playing sexy. Although her acting is shit. Again, other than Miguel A. Nunez, you don't give a shit about any of the Marines. Budget, about $5. I mean, I know it's straight to video. Vidmark, they're not known for their budget at all. And I didn't care about the bad green screen, you know, when they're on the alien planet looking for the princess. But which is fine, because I expect that. But when you see the outer space shots of the spaceship flying across outer space, or there's a scene where, because like I said, Dr. Mittenhand is trying to regenerate his body. There's a scene where they mix the princess's blood, because she can regenerate. She lost her hand in the opening sequence, which I'll talk about. Mix her DNA with like a skin flake of Dr. Mittenhand's finger, and they mix that, and then it morphs into just a little finger, and the CGI is garbage. Horrible. It's like very early computer graphics horrible. And I'm not talking like Industrial Light Magic early. I'm talking about like computer, like at home computer. Really bad. So that takes me out a lot. Garbage. I said, there's this weird scene where the Leprechaun hypnotizes the drill sergeant, you know, the one with the metal head, and turns him into a cross-dresser, complete with dance and song sequence that he does when he beats up Miguel A. Nunez, and he beats up, I'll just call Sylvester Stallone light, because he looks just like Sylvester Stallone, minus the droopy eyes and the talk like this. He's beating them up in full blonde wig and dress and stockings, but then going back and forth between normal drill sergeant and then feminine voice, and it takes you out of it. It's just unnecessary and just fucking weird. Didn't like that. They do rip off Alien a lot, and Aliens, which is fine. Everybody rips off everybody in the horror genre, you know. Which is fine. There are some cool, sequences where, like, there's a scene where the Marines are tracking the Leprechaun in a room full of flesh-eating bacteria. So they have to wear these hazmat suits. And, of course, the Marines look like they're in the suits from the first Alien movie, the Ridley Scott Alien. So that's kind of a ha-ha, wink-wink nod. But it's also funny that the Leprechaun is in the room with them in a hazmat suit. A hazmat suit that's Leprechaun-sized because, they just for this occasion, the fucking, whoever is running the spaceship just happens to have a midget-sized hazmat suit for, you never know when you're going to need it. But that was kind of like a little fun homage to Alien. There's a lot of running around through like the corridors, which is an homage to Alien, and it's fine. We got the Space Marines from Aliens, which is fine. Lots of homages. You even have let me talk about the opening sequence when the Marines are rescuing the princess. Okay, there's a fucking shootout, and it's cool to see people actually using guns against the Leprechaun. No one ever thought to do that. And then the Leprechaun actually picks up a gun, pulse rifle, whatever you want to fucking call it, and shoots back. So it's a neat opening sequence between these Marines who, sadly, if you're Marines, you can't hit your fucking target against the Leprechaun with a fucking gun. So that's fun. The Leprechaun takes out a guy with a fucking lightsaber. That was kind of a, funny nod to Star Wars. And then the Leprechaun dies in the beginning by jumping on a grenade to save the princess, and he blows up in a cool effect. Really liked it. What follows is really weird, though. So, I don't know what I dropped. Dropped my pen. So what do Marines do? 1995 Marines. We don't have as much respect as we have for them now in 2017. They take pride in the fact that they blew up the Leprechaun, and what does one of them do? He pees on the Leprechaun's, dismembered leg. And then you see some weird special effects going up the pee stream, and goes into the guy's dick. And later on, he's making out with Debbie Dunning, and that's how the Leprechaun gets on the ship, by popping out of the guy's penis. I'm not lying. To the William Tell Overture. He's laying down screaming, talking about how his dick hurts. You see his crotch gets huge. Leprechaun bursts out to the William Tell Overture and flies, and it's so absurd and dumb. I hated it. I thought that was really fucking stupid. But it's Leprechaun in space. What are you gonna do? You gotta run with it and deal with the stupid, because you gotta have a mind frame when you're going into Leprechaun 4 in space. It's like watching Sharknado. You know what the fuck you're getting into. Man, but that opening sequence, before he came out of the guy's dick, was fun. It was cool. It was different. There was some action. Now, I mentioned Dr. Mittenhand and how he wants to create, he wants to steal the princess's DNA so he can be human again. Of course, Leprechaun finds out about this, makes his own little DNA concoction with a scorpion and a spider, injects it into Dr. Mittenhand. Dr. Mittenhand ends up becoming this mutated human spider-scorpion hybrid. And for, a $5 budget, the makeup effects look pretty cool, pretty neat. Tolerable. Okay. It's just taking the series in another fucking direction. It's going balls to the wall with its sci-fi. So now the Marines also have to deal with Dr. Mitten Spider, as he's calling himself, and the Leprechaun. And as brief as that was kind of neat. A downside, I hate how the Leprechaun's defeated. And I talked about spoilers. Eventually they make it to the back of the ship. The Leprechaun is hit with a growth ray. He grows to as big as, I don't fucking know, let's just say 12 feet tall. And there's this goofy joke where he says, big is better, or something like that, and he looks down his pants and, sees his dick is big too. So, Warwick Davis, working with what he's got. And it's just I had enough of the homages to Aliens. He's sucked out of, the cargo bay, and he convulses and explodes in space, again with the really shitty CGI. Really bad. And then, of course, they see his pieces floating in space, and then the hand slowly gives the finger. Didn't like that at all. I thought it was dumb. And then another thing I hated. I really liked Dr. Mittenhand's assistant, because he was funny with Dr. Mittenhand. And, of course, he's going to be fucking killed. I won't say how, but it's done in a super cartoony way that I'm just like, that's fucking dumb. Fucking retarded. Hated it. So yeah, we have, other than Miguel A. Nunez, you don't give a shit about any of the Marines. One of them turns into a cross-dresser. Dr. Mittenhand and the assistant, when they're not together, suck. Horrible special effects. But you also have Warwick Davis chewing up the scenery. He's great when he's with the princess. And it's weird. The only nudity you see in this film, you see her boobs. But it's done in a weird comedic effect. She goes like this, and then she gives this big speech, and then she, walks away. And Miguel A. Nunez, of course, does his funny lines. And the hot, doctor's assistant says that when whatever princess she is shows you her breasts, it's a death sentence. And then he says another funny quip. So, but that was kind of weird. But like I said, Warwick Davis is great. when he's with the princess. Their banter is great. The opening sequence is great. Leprechaun 4, is it worth the hate? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no. Leprechaun 4 is not worth the hate, and here's why. From the beginning of this film to the end of this film, no matter what I disliked about it, I was never bored. I was entertained. And that's what makes it, even if it's so bad it's good, that's what makes a good film. Good in huge quotation marks. An entertaining film. I was never bored in this film ever. Once that opening firefight hit, I was hooked. Like, what's going to happen next? The fucker has a lightsaber. As dumb as it was, he came out of this guy's dick. Now they're fighting Dr. Mitten Spider. Hot chick running around with no pants on. Miguel A. Nunez being funny as fuck. Warwick Davis chewing up the fucking scenery. Did I love this film? Absolutely fucking not. Did I like it? It was alright. But is it worth the hate? Absolutely not. I might actually put it above Leprechaun 2. Because if you go ahead and watch my Leprechaun 2 review, I think the only good thing about Leprechaun 2 was the Uncle Morty character. Other than that, I didn't give a shit about anything. But it was slow and boring in parts. Like I said, for the 100th time, I was never fucking bored with Leprechaun 4. It is like Sharknado. It's so over the top. It's so weird. It's so fucked up. You can't take your eyes away, and you want to know what's happening next. So, I put it above, like I said, I put it above part 2. Is it above part 3? I don't know, but I will say this. I don't care what the horror community says, because I don't give a shit what they think, in my opinion, when it comes to films. But Leprechaun 4, is it worth the hate? No. Give it a shot. As stupid as it is, as many problems as this film has, I don't think you'll be bored. Now, granted, I was drinking at the time. I do think it's better probably if you watch it with a group of friends with some beer and some pizza involved. But I watched this by myself with some beer. And I give it a passing grade. I don't have a grading system, but I'm going to say it's not worth the hate. It does not deserve all the shit it gets. And the fact that I laughed out loud on 2 occasions because of Miguel A. Nunez Jr. already gives me a passing grade in Leprechaun 4. So that's it. That's what I think. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, share my videos. I've never said this before. If you're watching on a mobile phone, click that little bell. So every time, if you subscribe to me, you'll get a text message or a notification that I've uploaded a new video. So feel free to do that. Also, if you like what you see, tell your friends. If you hate what you see, tell your enemies. Tell anybody. Tell Warwick Davis, keep making Leprechaun films, which sadly he stopped after part 6. But anyways, cheers, and after this he went to the hood. Pray for me, Internet. Pray for me.